Welcome to Reading the Green, our golf and fantasy sports show. My name is Mike with Kyle on Tuesday, March 26th. This is episode 103, the Houston Open preview and the Valspar Championship recap. Kyle, welcome to the pod. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Missing our third wheel here. Should we talk about why he's not joining us? I feel like this is a discussion topic.
You don't join the pod, it's open season.
It is. So he's not joining us because he's going on vacation tomorrow. Like, he's got to pack tonight. How much packing do you got to do, Jordan? Can you not plan this better? What'd you do last night? Could you have not packed at lunchtime today? This is weak. I don't like this is weak.
I hear you. I feel like he could have slipped it in. Knowing him, he's not prepping or doing any post-production work, so all he had to do was show up for 30 minutes. But I'm not going to get in between a man and packing and his wife. That's not a place I need to be.
Fair enough. To each their own. Disappointed you're not here, Jordan. That's all. I made my case known.
Very good. Well, we're going to mix things up a little bit. You want to start? I want to start with beer tonight before we get into sports gambling and golf and all that good stuff. But I want to start with beer because we have a little bit of a news story we wanted to chat through a little bit. My beer for this evening's show is the Retro Ski Suit from sorry, this is not Retro Ski Suit. I'm sorry. That's what I thought I grabbed. No wonder I thought this tasted different. I have strong friend moves from Fair State, a Happy Pilsner. I looked at the back of the can. I'm like, Retro Ski Suit is a junkyard beer, and this definitely says Fair State.
And
strong friend moves.
Happy Pilsner, not a Happy Pilsner, right?
It's not. I was thinking Retro Ski Suit for what today is just a disastrous weather day, 48 hours in Minnesota, and so I thought it would be fitting. Instead, strong friend moves. Pretty solid Pilsner if you like something with a little bit of bite.
You're right on the weather perspective. It's crazy. I golfed 2 weeks ago. Is that when we were talking about it? And now we got a pile of snow out there.
Set us back a little bit, but it's all right.
We needed the moisture. That's what I keep telling myself. From Modest. I've not seen this one before, Mike. So I'm curious if you have. Day of Another Dream.
Mm-hmm. Jordan's all about the Modest beers. He would definitely know about them. I've had it. I've had previous iterations, not this year's, but previous iterations.
Yeah. West Coast IPA, wanted to change it up a little bit with West Coast tonight. And then, Day of Another Dream. I feel like that was fitting. On a snowy day, we can dream of another day if I twist that around, or dream of another outcome Sunday. We'll get to that. Or of a better week this week. So
well,
a lot of iterations there.
I got your vibe. But speaking of beers I haven't had, you sent this link to me. I saw the news article. This is gonna be a local story. I saw the news article a few days ago. The Minnesota Craft Brewers Guild gives out their annual Best Beer in the State awards, and they have 3 Best in Show beers, followed by I think 23 categories based on style, in which they award gold, silver, and bronze, which in each of the styles. That makes 72 beers that received awards. I've had 6 of them.
You've had 6 of them?
Beer snob, Mike, Minnesota beer guy. I mean, I'm not out there like drinking every single Minnesota beer I can find, but like I'm pretty adventurous. I've had 6.
Ooh, I should have went through and counted. So this is interesting.
But let's these things though, and this for any beer fans that are in our audience, like these lists are available. They come out in every state, I'm sure, every Brewers Guild or whatever. It's got to be 99% marketing. Like, I'm sorry, some of the beers that are on here, and this was exactly like the bit that we had, which is like, did they not drink any good beer when they gave these awards out? Because like, why is Surly Axeman deserving of number 1? I mean, it's been around forever. and
have
it's a fine beer, but like, do we really need to award it number one 20 years after it was released?
I have some takes. So, well,
Fire.
first off, I'm curious. I'm curious if this is only like, do you have to? I'm guessing you have to choose to enter this, right?
Well, that's where the marketing piece comes from. Like, it's like any of those. You ever see like those like 40 under 40, business articles, and you're like, where'd these
Correct.
people
Correct.
come from? And I've had friends getting that kind of stuff, and it's like, that you have to apply for it in interview, and so it's not actually some agency interviewing every single business person under 40, just like they're not drinking every single beer and rating it.
Yes. So I'm doing a quick count. Definitely had more than you. I think I'm probably like 13 or so on this list.
Okay.
Um,
It's not very
but
many out of 72.
but no. I love my Todd the Axeman. Todd the Axeman from Surly is a great beer, but to your point, it's not exactly new by any means, or it wasn't 10 years ago exactly new by any means. But the one that just shows me how crazy the list was actually the third placed
Oh yeah,
one.
just
Yeah,
terrible.
yes. Yeah. Summit Saga Imperial. I can't say I've had the Imperial very often, IPA from Saga. But yeah, Saga IPA, I used to think that was good way back once upon a time.
Before like
But I
actual
mean,
beer existed. I don't
I
know. I
I think we're gonna have to. The reason I sent this, right? I think we have to seek some of these out for Weird Beer Night in 2023 or 2024, whatever
it
year we're in.
definitely that is a good point. There are definitely some categories that I was like, no way in hell am I ever buying that beer. That's probably the other thing too, is they are like diverse enough in what they're awarding, and so like I don't have it I don't have it up in front of me, but like like spiced beer category, like I'm definitely not just willingly buying out of the
I do have
spiced
it
and
up.
herb beer.
Spice, herb, and vegetable beers.
Yeah.
But I mean, you look at it, it's a coffee toffee blonde, Doppelbock, and Badger Snack peanut butter milk stout. I'm not drinking that one, just for the record. I think we should seek some of these out, like the wood aged beers. We can have those for barrel aged
hmm
night. I have not had any of the three on here.
My mom, I think in years past, my mom has sent me this list as like, oh, he likes beer, like check this out, and I'll respond back and be like, yeah, those are all beers for dad. like
Yeah,
I
well,
just
there's just some, that there's just some breweries that are obviously missing from the list
hmm
that you're like, yeah,
Yeah, you can't
not
tell me that
yeah,
Modest, Fair State, Barrel Theory,
Black
uh,
Stack.
Black Stack. You tell me that none of their beers are worth being on here. I guarantee it's because they don't participate for one reason or another. So, anyways, check it out if you're a Minnesota beer fan. Tell us what you think. But I could tell you number three, Saga Imperial IPA from Summit. I mean, even I think Summit EPA was awarded third place in one of the categories. And I was like, Summit EPA is like the original craft beer of Minnesota, whereas it's still winning awards.
Well, I also question why it says Detroit Lakes. Unless that was a
Hmm,
typo.
I don't know. I
English,
didn't look.
Scottish, and Irish ales. It got third.
Well, anyways, okay. I have another story for you before we get into golf. This is sports gambling related, not golf related that I know
Mm,
of.
mm.
But Kyle, you seem confused. I asked you, do you know who Jonte Porter is?
Oh, is this NBA guy?
Jonte Porter. Maybe you know him by his social media tag, Tay Trades 11. You familiar?
No, I thought so. When you tease the gambling piece, I was like, yeah, maybe it's
Well,
NBA dude. No.
Jonte Porter might be in a little bit of hot water. Just to familiarize yourself. I mean, he is a journeyman. We'll call him journeyman. 6-year NBA slash
Oh,
lesser NBA league veteran. He played his college basketball at Mizzou. He actually reclassified a year earlier so he could play up with his brother in high school. They ended up going to different colleges. Michael Porter Jr., who actually is a semi-star NBA player, played played at Washington, and Jonte ended up going back home and playing at the University of Missouri. Their dad was an NCAA coach for various teams, and so like they're basketball family. Like these kids are basketball family, grew up in basketball, certainly achieved certainly achieved pretty high in the basketball career, if you will. But Jonte goes he goes undrafted in 2019, so he's not clearly as good as his brother Michael Porter Jr. Eventually signed by the Grizzlies, waived by the Grizzlies, bounces around some summer league teams, and now is in the news. And Kyle, I'm going to guess maybe you saw why he's in the news.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, Jonte gets about, I don't know, 6-7 minutes a game. He doesn't really play. But when he did play, the sports books were noticing some interesting activity around Jonte lines.
Well, when he kind of played, right? Isn't the two biggest nights?
There's two key examples. Yeah. The first game was on January 26th of this year when the team he plays for, the Toronto Raptors, played the Clippers. He played 4 minutes, and in that game, he left due to an eye injury that he sustained days earlier. He finished with no points, 3 rebounds, and 1 assist. He did not attempt a three-pointer. All of those led him to hitting the under on the 4 categories that I just mentioned. The under on Porter's 3-pointers was the biggest money winner for bettors on all NBA props on DraftKings Sportsbook for that day. Okay. Now the over under on 3-pointers was a half. So it was either he made one or he didn't. On March 20th, so now 2 months later, the same thing happens. He plays 3 minutes before being ruled out due to illness, finished with no points, 2 rebounds, and 1 missed shot, again hitting the under on all of those categories. And once again, his unders were the biggest NBA prop bet on DraftKings on that day. Could be a coincidence. Now, these are the only 2 days that were reported. DraftKings said that they were getting requests for $10,000 to $20,000 bets on these props when they normally only allow, I believe, up to a $2,000 bet on prop lines for NBA. So I'm not exactly sure how they handled that. So we'll start there. Suspicious? Coincidence? Want to know more?
Oh, it's 100% suspicious and is what everyone thinks it is. It's crazy to me that he clearly was in on the bit, but being coerced to be in on the bit, but he couldn't keep that competitive fire in himself back enough that he had to remove himself from the games to make sure they under it.
Well, so a couple.
At least he was. I guess you could say, was he really throwing the games? Not really. He just said, I don't need to play anymore.
You would think that, okay, so we have a couple of kind of damning pieces of evidence here, but you'd think you'd have to probably have put together pretty strong investigative team to kind of figure out, tie this one all together and figure out, is he in it? Is he not? Like, is he tangentially related to this? Maybe. Jonte operates in social media as TayTrades11, primarily on Discord, as he is the co-founder of a janky-looking trading advice site called the Financial Cloud. The Financial Cloud gives trading tips on crypto and other securities, as well as occasionally TayTrades11 comments on NCAA and NBA lines that might be stone cold locks.
Oh boy. So I had read the first part of the story. I did not see the second part of the story.
You need to check out this website, the Financial Cloud. Like when I say janky, it like the words on the page don't even really make sense. It basically the headline on the website is "Secure your financial freedom through trading." Like sounds like the biggest scam ever. And he has multiple. And then the Redditor, I went through big Reddit on this, but the Redditors are just like reposting all of these tweets of him, people tweeting back at him, like, thank you for the lock. I'm eating well tonight. That was the easiest money. That was the easiest money on the day. people were even commenting that there was a specific game in which he banked in a ridiculous 3-pointer, and he's shown like shrugging and grimacing off to the side of the court as if like, oh God, I can't believe that went in. I just hit, I just,
Oh
ruined
no.
my underline on a basket I tried to miss. Um,
It's the financial cloud.
yeah, did you find it? I can send it to you later too, but it's this is a serious question. I don't know him. I don't know his family. I read a little bit on Wikipedia. Is this the bad dude? Or is this the system making him bad? Or is it somewhere in between?
Um, well, obviously he has some lapse in judgment capabilities, but I believe he's making the NBA league minimum, right?
I'm sure. He's on a 2-way deal, so like I'm sure it's league minimum.
Yeah. So, which is, well, okay, yeah. So he's on a 2-way deal. So even for a 2-way
He only gets
contract,
paid NBA dollars for the NBA games he plays. Um,
I want to say it's 449, yeah, 155. 449,000. I understand I guess the draw to do something of this nature, but you're making that sort of money. And great, I know it's a flash in the pan for a couple of times, and he's probably looking beyond that. But man, the
it
guy's
doesn't
not
seem
the
worth it.
brightest bulb in the marquee. I think there's probably ways you could figure out to get done if you're really that worried about it, to not make it so egregious.
And I'm not. I thought I saw this that like the NBA's gambling rules. I'm not. This didn't seem right, but that as long as it's not on basketball, it was permitted. That could be the case. I'm not. Different leagues probably have different player policies. I probably should have double checked that, but it's just to do it so close to your sport. Obviously, he's in control. And I think that's what's going to make this. This guy's going to go to jail probably, like Tim Donaghy.
Mm.
Like he was in control of the outcomes um, that he was betting on, or he was telling people to bet on. It's a pretty big deal. The bigger question though is, and there's been a few other things in the media recently around players and coaches taking the brunt of kind of poor gambling behavior, and this idea that any of the major sports leagues, the NBA, the NFL, just continue to deepen their partnerships with the sports books and other gambling entities, and yet the players themselves are expected to abstain in all regards from any of that. And I think like, to your point, like he might not be the brightest bulb on the marquee, and that puts him in a pretty tough position to really to make the right judgment when he's surrounded by this stuff day in and day out. I don't know. I know like there's not an excuse. Like what he has done, he crossed the line. He knew he crossed the line. It's absolutely egregious, but like the lines are getting like awfully difficult to see. It
Yeah,
puts
I mean,
players in a tough spot.
I yeah, I agree. But I don't. I guess I don't take the side of that. Like the leagues are taking the money, right? So as
Yep.
long as there's a way for the leagues to be flowing back the money to players, they are also benefiting from it as well.
So that's an interesting point. That is a fair point.
But I can't speak to it, but I'm sure the Players Association and all these different leagues have some sort of mechanism for that, right? It also, I think we're to the point, it's not exactly new now that the, the 4, 5, 6, even like 10 years ago, where it was more and more prevalent as online gambling was becoming more and more prevalent. They've put a lot of programs in place that at this point the guys know what they're doing, right?
Oh,
They know
absolutely.
what they're putting themselves at risk. There's no ignorance. It's different than the college sports situation.
The one of the takes that I thought was interesting was that because of how regulated sports gambling is becoming, this kind of stuff just is naturally more public. Like DraftKings and the other sports books, they are required in order to operate, they are required to report irregularities like this. Back in the Tim Donaghy days, it's very difficult to report irregularities in cousin Donnie's sports book or wherever Tim was doing his work. And so it's not that this wasn't happening 10, 15, 20 years ago. It probably was happening just as much. It's just there weren't the mechanisms in place to surface it, and now there are. And some people are going to be a little surprised when they realize how easy it was for DraftKings to say, "Hey, wait a second, our biggest loss on the day was on Jonte Porter unders because he didn't hit a 3-pointer."
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
I'm starting to go down the rabbit hole of the financial cloud and stuff. I need to stop.
Yeah, well, for the audience too, it's an interesting story to read up on. I think we'll see what comes out of the investigation, but I think this guy is I think he's in trouble. And whether or not the financial cloud is a legitimate entity or not, that's maybe a different question. But Jonte himself might be a little bit of heat. So, with that, want to talk some golf?
Let's talk some golf. I need to get off
All
the
right.
financial cloud here. I'm about ready to invest. I should probably pull back.
Well, Kyle, I don't know how much you watched of the Valspar. Folks on Twitter will make it seem as if nobody watched the Valspar, but in case you missed it, something called Peter Malnati. He won the event by 2 over Cameron Young.
Captain Yellow Ball.
Captain Yellow Ball, bucket hat, yellow ball, PGA Tour player director. Can you think of somebody, I don't know, can you think of somebody like on your team at work or, in whether it was in school, someone that was a Peter Malnati? Like I'm trying to figure out who Peter Malnati is. Like seems like a little bit of an odd dude. He's been around. He clearly drinks the PGA Tour Kool-Aid. He's a player director while ranked. I should have looked at his world ranking. It certainly isn't within the top 100. Hasn't won in 10 years on the PGA Tour. Couldn't even tell you the last time that he was in contention on Sunday. I believe that was his words in his interview. I don't know the last time that I was contending on a Sunday. And he walks away with a 2-shot lead playing a yellow ball and wearing a bucket hat. I don't know. There's just some people like that you work with or that are in your life. You're just kind of like, this guy just kind of hangs around, I guess.
I appreciate you can pop up and do it. I mean, the story behind the yellow ball is actually real cool. If you
I don't know it. No, I actually don't know it. Go ahead.
His 3-year-old, his son at the time when he was 3, told him he likes it. The yellow balls better than the white ones. So he's like, all right, I'll start playing yellow balls. And he's like, if something that can give me a smile once or twice during my round to relieve the pressure of the situation, why not?
Well, it definitely says something. I don't know. Every time I see it, I just think I'm got the Champions Tour on.
I watched a decent amount. I unfortunately, for reasons I'm sure we'll get into, Sunday at one point in time, I did have to turn it off, which normally I'm not much of a tilter, but I did just need to separate for a little bit of time on Sunday, went back to hoops, because the early games were not great Sunday anyway. So I was like, I'll turn it into golf. Well,
literal WTF Keith Mitchell. Like when is the RTG Calcutta going to start paying 54-hole leaders? Because we've had 2 this year.
And 2 other 54-hole second places, by the way. So we put ourselves in great positions going to Sunday, and we had out of those positions outside of the 1 dub. We're not complaining. We'll take the 1 dub, but man, just people ejecting from the start. Like Keith Mitchell.
Keith was.
So I got a scorecard up, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So first hole, one of the easiest holes on the course, par 5. He pars it. We're off to a rough start.
Mm-hmm.
Bogey, par, and he was spraying all over the place. But then par, goes to the par 5 fifth. Okay, we're 1 over. He's still, I think, tied at this point. Give it, coughed up 1, but whatever. Par 5 in front of us. Let's get right. Pars it. It's when we know we're in trouble. And then bogey, par, bogey, par, bogey, double bogey. And then he threw in an eagle on 14 just to be like, yeah, I can still play if I want.
Well, all the pressure is off at that point, and I felt good. I felt good about Keith getting it done between Saturday and Sunday. Obviously, the finish on Saturday was incredible. Um, I felt good about him getting it done only because he's been there before. He's got the win on the PGA Tour. He's got this vibe. He's got this. I don't know. He's got this kind of strut
We call
around
him
to it.
Killer or
I
Cashmere
know.
Keith or Killer Keith. 100%. I thought he was going to do it. I was fairly
Yep.
confident going in. It's in Florida. He plays well in the Southeast. I thought he was going to do it, and then bro goes and
I knew
throws
we were
up
in
a
trouble.
77.
He's got a 35 footer for birdie on the first hole on the par 5. Was playing one of the easiest holes on the week, and it's just like, okay. And driver is his strength, and driver is his strength. And when he was spraying it all over the place off the tee, you just knew that he wasn't going to recover on the greens. I think he was almost dead last in the field in putting, and so but wasn't meant to be. I guess we'll try again with the Calcutta. I think you said last week on the pod, if we could just get one guy to win one of the next 3 events before the Masters, we'd feel pretty good. And I just thought it was going to happen.
Well, and just to clarify that, I mean, obviously we're sitting okay for the year, but we wanted to win one more. We wanted to win one more so we could fire even bigger at the Masters and be in a better situation.
Well, folks, we'll get to it. Folks, I've seen like Keith a little bit this week at Houston as well to bounce back. But I have one more take from the Valspar. So Peter Malnati wins by 2 over Cameron Young. So first of all, if Cameron Young really is the top echelon or the second echelon of PGA Tour players that we think he is, does he have to asterisk if he would have won this event? Does he have to asterisk it on a week when Spieth and Harman miss the cut and JT flames out and he chases down Peter Malnati?
Hell no. He's just got to get his first dub. He's at that right, and I think I've seen a lot of different parallels out there to even Scotty, for example. And granted, Cameron Young has gotten there a little later in his career, and then maybe Scotty started this path. But the first few years until Scotty got it done, there was a lot of conversation about Scotty not winning. And so Cam just needs to get his first one under his belt, and I think they're going to follow in quick succession afterwards.
Yeah. And
seven, second place. Is that right? Right?
I think it's something like that.
Including, an open championship, several big time BDEs. So he'll be
he will, as long as he's not leaving tying birdie putts on 18 short by 9 feet. Yeah, he'll be all right. Let's run through a couple of RTG follow-ups here. The Listener League, we had a new winner, I think. Kins Mobile 1 taking down the top spot, followed by Buke 0125 and Kyle. 3rd place finish. You're not going to retire on an RTG 3rd place finish, but get your name on the leaderboard.
I'll take it. Good to get back. I've had some decent success in RTG this year. It's the one place I've had it, so I'll take it. Overall, it was a okay week.
The RTG model, the Power Index, continues to hum along on our top Power Index plays. I think we've had really one bad week, but this week Xander was the top of the Power Index. Not a huge surprise as the most expensive player in the field, but his backdoor top 5 certainly gets it done from a metrics and performance standpoint. And frankly, DFS lineups don't care when you score your points. And so the fact that Xander finished top 5, if you had played him, was good for you.
I played a lot of them. I'll take it.
The bad, we'll talk about Sam Burns a little bit. That was not good. We'll get to that. Tournament winner, we said Peter Malnati. He was in our model. He was ranked 44th in our model. He also was the gutsiest play of the week, which we'll hand out to John Hasselbauer, who had to go back and read. Why is John Hasselbauer touting Peter Malnati this week? He said he ran a model in which he had top 40 in scrambling as one of his model metrics, and Peter Malnati was in the mix for around the green and scrambling. So that's how he got him in there. And then that ultimately makes John Hasselbauer and the lines sleepers column, KH Lee, Andrew Novak, Sam Ryder, Joel Damon, and Matthew NeSmith being the top contributor of the week.
KH Lee in there too. That one's impressive. Yeah.
Landmines, Aaron Rai, Sung Jae Im, and Sam Burns. And it pains me to have this conversation, Kyle, without Jordan here, but maybe it's for the best. Last week we had the Survivor League workshop. Do you remember how that went?
Yeah, I said Sam Burns, and you gave a great pitch for Xander. And by the end, I was convinced, yeah, never mind, we should do Xander.
Not just by the end. On Wednesday night, you texted, like
Jordan, you should play
Jordan,
you should play Xander.
Wasn't even like there was an ongoing conversation. You just texted, Jordan, play Xander in Survivor. And I asked for your reasoning. I asked why you changed. You said you gave a great pitch for it. And if the weather is going to be bad, play your studs, trust your studs in tough conditions. And I countered and said, you know what? It looks like the AM PM wave is going to get some benefit. I kind of think sticking with Sam Burns is all right because he's going to have favorable weather. And he did have favorable weather. He just really sucks.
Yeah, even Thursday when everything was benign. What was the one text? He topped it out of a bunker and hit the lip.
Yep.
I mean, he was making birdies, but he was also hemorrhaging strokes.
He shot even par on Thursday with 6 birdies. And then on Friday, just couldn't get it going. Makes 2 ridiculous par saves. I should say 1 ridiculous par save on 16. Par 17, playing pretty long. They playing 240 yards on. He had a 6-iron on 17, 215 yards or whatever. And then on 18, hits it up there to 50 feet. Needs a 2-putt to make the cut, and he runs it past by 5 feet and doesn't even touch the hole on the comebacker. So,
and that was after back-to-back birdies on 14 to 15 to get into the position. I think it was a little bit of a bad, just unluck situation too, because the wind just died for like 2 hours. I mean, you were in Florida. I'm guessing maybe
it did. It was really ugly on Friday, and they're in Tampa. We were down just near Fort Myers, and it's not that far away. It was ugly on Friday, but about that time, like late afternoon, rain stopped. Like kids were in the pool. Like it actually was all right.
Yeah, I've heard takes from other people in the area too, and it wasn't. I think the storms had started a little bit earlier and then just missed actually where the course was. So you got that little bit of a outflow situation, and it cleared it off, which was just unfortunate because it was trending towards +1 being perfectly fine, and then situation changed, and here we are. But I think what we should do, because it was a fun bit. Sorry, Jordan. I'm not gonna.
I am sorry. I take some accountability.
He ultimately makes the cut.
We left the decision in his hands. I said, you're gonna pick between these two guys. They're both gonna make the cut, so it doesn't matter. But you're gonna pick.
Yeah, I think the takeaway at the end of the day is play your freaking studs, no matter what. But so it's funny enough. I think we should keep it going with who is picked just to see how long we can go, right? And so this week, luckily, because Jordan somehow completely messed it up with the players, you still have Scotty, right? So you take Scotty.
Really?
Yes. Don't get too cute. Did you not just learn? The only thing that matters is making the cut. I think we got even some weeks we got a little sideways. We got lucky. Yeah,
it is a fair point because he wouldn't have needed him we wanted to play Scotty at the players and he didn't. So we were assuming the rest of the year was going to be without Scotty. So you're right. There is in a week like this when
I don't trust anyone else.
I don't trust Zalatoris or Theegala. We'll get to maybe actually, do you have one and done up? Just really quick, do you have
continue workshopping that thought.
All I was gonna say was I don't trust Zalatoris or Theegala as we get to the Houston Open. I agree. You play your studs the rest of the way because if just to close out the Survivor League piece, I think half of the Survivor League pool was on Sam Burns. I think it was like there were 34 people left. I think 15 people had taken Burns, and so actually it might have been less than that because I think he said there were 9 people left. So whatever it is, there's 9 people left after this week. So if you're down to 9, you're basically deciding when are you going to fire your stud versus when are you going to try to zig when everyone else zags. And maybe this week you punt on it because at some point
I think you're already like you don't need a zigzag. There's 9 people left. Just keep playing your studs and survival of the fittest.
And let everyone else.
Yeah, well, because I bet you most people don't have Scotty left.
Probably not.
So if 2 or 3 of those other, if Finau or Willie Z misses the cut or Sahith, then you have Scotty left. Then then there's 5.
Houston and Valero are going to be tough spots to guarantee a cut maker because you just don't know who's going to mail it in. Like,
correct.
We see with Rory all the time at Valero. It's like if it doesn't get going on Thursday morning, I'm going to just take my swings for the next 30 holes and I'm going to get up to Augusta. And so that's the risk you have the next 2 weeks is just you want to play the top of the board, but you don't know if the top of the board actually wants to play.
All right, so next year I feel like me and you both need to be in an eliminator because we're going against each other. All right.
Okay.
All right. One and done. Funny enough, this is hilarious. Guess who got the most money last week? Jordan with Cam Young. He finished second.
Why did he pick him? Jeez.
Him and Stogie. There was a plethora of people that took Xander, finishing 5th. Derek Howard, Greg Bentley, J.E. Minky. We had a Christian Bezuidenhout for T Nash. Ended up pretty well as well. So some guys scored last week. Champel still leads the way at 7 and change. C. Barry, 2nd. Stogie, 3rd. A Dingus, 4th, and just the tips at 5th. So just a little bit of a quick refresh on us. I'm 11th, Mike. You're 12th. We're back to back. I don't even remember. Oh, I took JT last week, which looked great on Thursday, and then talking about shooting
Nick
80.
Taylor. Nick Taylor's, came about 18
and then
grand.
Jordan did pick up a bunch of ground up on us. He's up to 16th, so we're in contention. I just do want to shout out our last place guy all year so far is Brennan. Good job, Brennan. Keep dragging up the rear. Get your picks in on time.
All right, let's do the Houston Open preview at Memorial Park in Houston, Texas. Not too far. I spent New Year's Eve in Houston. This Memorial Park was just on the other side of River Oaks, where you might find other famed Houstoners like Ted Cruz, I think, lives in the area. So right here, bumping up against Memorial Park. Kyle, you ever play golf over in the Memorial Park area?
I haven't. I need to. I mean, public course, and I hear it's fairly well thought of, especially post redesign, and it's fairly cheap.
Yeah, post redesign. Brooks Koepka, I think 4 or 5 years ago, came through here and helped with the redesign, which does not strike me as the golf course architect nerd. Maybe they were just looking for a name that they could put on here while he rode around a golf cart and said, "Yeah, sure, that bunker looks okay right there." But last year, Tony Finau gets the W, and so we're back on a fairly long golf course for a par 70, 7,400 yards. The only note that I wrote down: bombers wanted. What else you got?
Yes, and I think this is interesting this week. So distance certainly helps. I guess one of the things that Brooks was a big proponent of is elevated greens and tight runoff areas around the greens. He likes to elevate players that can control their spin better.
Sounds
he thinks
like
that makes them
a guy that's played well at Augusta and TPC Scottsdale, where they have a lot of those areas.
Yeah. So there is a preponderance of long iron shots, 200 plus, 28.6% of the approaches historically. That said, it actually hasn't correlated that well to success, those longer iron shots, which is interesting. You have some big greens though, so that's why I think Putting is important this week. You gotta have a pot putting week to win. If you go back and look who's won, I think you pointed this out earlier, Mike, on Rick Rungood's course fit model. Actually, strokes gained putting has been the second highest correlation of any course on tour. So, all that said, I do have some quote kind of hot takes, I guess, on the modeling fit this week. So first off, it's been they've played this event 4 times since the remodel, right? But this was always a fall swing course, so it was played in October and I think November one year.
They used to really struggle with daylight. This was a typical. This one was always one they could never finish on Thursday. Granted, that's just every PGA Tour event now, but
yeah, pre-daylight savings time, right? So, but this is in March, so that's going to be inherently different. So people are kind of, you look at the big names we follow, Rick Rungood and Pat Mayo. I don't think people are fully aligned on what they're putting in their models this week. So my kind of hot take lean is like if I was building on a model, recent form, sprinkle of distance, pot putting ability, but I'm heavily going on recent form. And I kind of see there's not as much water, but I see a good Valspar comp here. So if guys played last week well and are in this field, that's very intriguing to me.
When you talk about the architecture and like the big runoff areas, and I'm going to run through something here really quick, but we talk about big runoff areas. That's where you get into you need some sort of scrambling specialists. And I know the data people will say, well, scrambling means a lot of things. Scrambling isn't just missing the green and getting up and down. It also has to do with when you miss shots off the tee, like how well do you get yourself back in position to make par. But when you have these big run-up areas, you don't get 10, 15-yard chips from right next to the green. You're dealing with mounds. You're dealing with, you said, like elevated shots. A lot of this is like, it's crowned areas and collection areas. I do like the idea of finding some guys that have done well in places that reward scrambling. And I have maybe one guy in my notes that I'm keying on. But just really quick, nine stats that rank first in terms of correlation to success, according to Rick Rungood. The first overall, 3-putt avoidance, which when you're talking about big greens, that makes a ton of sense, right? You may hit the green, but you're going to have a lot of 40, 50, 60-foot putts. You're going to have different sections, different elevations, a lot of undulation. 3-putt avoidance, very important. Approaches from 125 to 150. Average distance of putts made. Overall putting average, putting from greater than 25 feet, putting from 10 to 15 feet, scrambling from greater than 30 yards, and my personal favorite, putting in round 2. So about half of those are kind of nuanced putting statistics, but I think that's what you got here is you need a little bit of length, but frankly, what you're looking for is someone who's going to do their best to get the ball in the hole quickly, which is golf. But on a course like this, you just can't get away with having a weak putting week.
I agree. Yeah, I think it's interesting because you got big greens, right? So you either got to put it close and be able to putt or navigate long putts. So that's, yeah, I think leg putting, something of that nature it makes sense too. Or you got to make those 10 to 15 footers. But you look at the 4 years since the redesign, who you look at the top 10, it's guys that putted well that week.
No surprise, in 2021, Scotty Scheffler finished second here. Even putting on the week, gained 7.5 shots ball striking. So if he's the guy out of and that goes back out of any of the top, kind of 20 rounds strokes gained at the Houston Open, he's the only guy that's been anywhere near a 0 putter. So other than Scotty, you're looking for guys that are going to have pot putting weeks. All right, you want to run through the model?
Yeah, so no surprise there. It's a good segue, Mike. Leading the way so far, Scotty Scheffler, believe it or not, 13,000
surprise
on the salary, 62% mention share, and no surprise, MPI loves him. Everyone that's been great for us this year is all in on Scotty. and we'll certainly get into the Scotty debate here, but from there it gets a little bit more interesting. We have right behind him, we have Joel Dahman, 7,100, 57% mention share. So Joel is
Insane.
getting a lot of love. Joel
Yeah.
and Gino, of course. I mean, because it's never just Joel. Uh, Jason Day and Mackenzie Hughes, both at 37.5%. Some of that Mackenzie Hughes carryover from last week, I think, was what people are hoping for. And then the next bucket, Joseph Bramlett, Siwoo Kim, and Old Wendy C, 31.25% so far. We didn't quite get to, I think, my favorite guy so far. And I'm glad to see our MPI likes him so as well. But Akshay is at 7,500, 25% mention share, 71 on the MPI. Spencer Gudula is on him. And then Matt Gannon, who's been hot for us. It feels a little bit odd to me to not play. We kind of think Akshay is a coastal specialist, I would say so far at this point in his career. I think he's going to get beyond that, but that's kind of what I see him as. But I was looking back at, how he's performed lately. Maybe Akshay is not the guy for your cash lineups, but from a GPP, I love it. 14th, 13th, cut, 13th, cut, 17th. So he's there or he's gone.
I have the exact same notes, which is, again, if you're going to get him, you might get him 10% owned this week. Total boomer bust. And he's shown it. I mean, he's basically finishing top 20 or he's missing the cut. And it's almost directly correlated with what he's doing on the greens. Off the tee, we know he's going to be strong. But when he's missing cuts, he's losing on the greens. And when he's making cuts and he's finishing top 20, he's gaining on the greens. So, like you said, like it's the coin flip for Akshay this week. If he has a good week on the greens, it's going to be good. So I'm totally with you with Akshay this week based on what we're seeing so far.
Yeah, and I think that's something that maybe some Matt Gannon and Spencer Goodall are grabbing onto in the model. He shows that popability, but overseeded Bermuda, I think that's his best putting surface, if I recall correctly. So maybe that's what we're trying to hope for this week. Next,
go ahead.
Do you want to do the Scotty? Should we talk about the Scotty?
Should we talk about Scotty? I mean, I don't know that it is even a debate because I'm looking at the guys that I am keying on, and I don't think I'm going to have any issue fitting them in and playing Scotty. So you talk about Akshay at 7,500. I was going to go right to Mackenzie Hughes at 7,800. Mackenzie has finished. He's made 6 of 7 cuts at the Houston Open over the years, finishing 16th last year, 7th in 2021. Around the greens specialist. I think he's gained in 14 straight events around the greens, and so I think coming off the T3 last week at the Valspar, like he's certainly got the form. He's got the history on the golf course, and he's got some of the skill set that I want to see here. If I'm finding multiple guys that I really like in the 7Ks, like Scotty's a no-brainer because I'm not going to really need the salary relief. I'll find one guy in the low 6s or the 5s that I want to toss in there as well. I don't know what the point of not playing Scotty is. I might play him in every lineup.
My take is evolved on this as we got into it. Initially, when the pricing came out and everything, it was like 13. I'm like, man, and it's coming at 30-40% ownership, and the likelihood that Scotty wins again is low, right? I know he's 280 to 1, whatever it is, but it's still golf. There's 144 other people out there. Yeah, I get he's Scotty Scheffler. That being said, I think I've worked my way completely into agreeing with you. It's setting up to be a completely studs and duds week for me. I don't like the 8K range. I don't like the top of the 7s really, outside of a couple sprinkles. The lower 9s doesn't really offer much either. So, I mean, you can easily, with the ability to go down to the 5s, fit Scotty, fit somebody else, in the 9s, or even another 10 if you want to get real creative down below, and take your and go from there and take your cheapies and stick it in.
This is why I play Rainmakers, because I'm going to get to play Scotty, Si Woo, and Jason Day all in the same lineup, and it's not going to matter.
So speaking of those cheapies, there is a couple of guys who I like. So I'm intrigued by Jake Knapp this week. Do see some overlap in Mexico. Finau's one there. Finau's one here. Coughlin is on him. Len Hochberg, who's had some good successful weeks for us. I do really like Andrew Novak as well this week. Only 6,900. He kind of burned everyone with the one bad week, but outside of that, he's had the good floor to swing overall, 3 top 20s. He's at 18.7% mention share so far. MPI doesn't love him, but Landon Selinsky's on him, who's found some good guys for us in the past. And then, Mike, I think we need to talk about our boy Rico Hui, $5,700. We were all in on him last week. It worked really well till Sunday. Really well till Sunday, and then he
shoots 79.
He tried to pull a JT and shoot a 78 on round 4, which is kind of the par for the course for him. So let's over the last 4 times out, 66, 56, 32nd, 54th. So yes, he's not a guy that's probably going to go get you a top 10, but hopefully a cut maker. But he is playing pretty well overall, outside of just kind of one blow up round every week. And there's not near as much water on this course as there is at the Valspar or Puerto Rico or the Cognizant, where he's had good weeks, or even Mexico. So maybe he can avoid that blow up round for us, keep it on the tracks. And I mean, it's been round 4 that's got him. So just get him to Sunday and hopefully avoid those water balls if you're looking for something cheaper to pair with Scotty.
I was pretty pumped when we had our little text exchange on Wednesday last week, and I sent you a lineup with Rico in it, and you said like, "Oh wow, I didn't even like kind of realize how he was charting out. That seems like a great play." And I think I just said like, it's going to be so much fun to play Rico Hui this week, and it was like, and I kind of lost track of him on Sunday. I didn't realize he fell down so far because I think he got to first page on the leaderboard at some point. He was -6, and then
so 67, 71, 69, and then 78.
Yeah,
but that's what I mean. And at Cognizant, he was 69, 66, 72, 73. So whatever him and Keith Mitchell are doing on Saturday night, we need to reconsider.
Fair enough. The other guys that I have that I've eyed here, Joel Dahmen, right? Like, you're watching Full Swing, great story. It's great to see this guy kind of turn things around. I love seeing him written up week to week. He's getting love. This feels like a trap play when it comes. When we get guys like this, the feel good stories that start moving up the RTG model, get a ton of love. I mean, we got 56% of the experts are talking about Joel Dahmen this week at 7,100, and I don't know that. Yeah, he's made 3 cuts in a row, but he doesn't hit the ball all that far. He's really not a short game specialist. I mean, even when he's making cuts, he's losing strokes around and on the greens. I just don't know that this is sure, we could play form all day long on Joel. I don't know if this is a great setup for him.
I think he has some sneaky good history here too, which
really
doesn't
T9
make sense.
And T5. It doesn't make sense. And he was almost an even putting even around the greens in those years, and just killed it on approach. So he gained almost all of his strokes in the ball striking categories. So like, I don't know. I am probably going to stay off of Joel for the most part this week, only because it just kind of smells like a trap.
I think that's fair. I don't love the fit. Like Joel, like you said, I just don't love the fit, even with the course history, which T5, T9 that's wild.
It is. It is. And, if he's going to be 15, 16, 17% owned, I think you can just, you could do better. You can get half the ownership at the same price point. And a couple other guys that we've talked about already, or even a third of it, if we want to get into like Ben Griffin for that matter, who I think had a good finish here last year. So,
one last thing on Joel. So you compare against his active stats, his ranks over the last year. He is 4% putting. So completely against what we're saying. You need the ability to pop putt here. And yeah, so I agree with that take.
Who else? Who else is on your mind? The people that we've run through here, or just other kind of deeper plays that caught your attention?
I mean, Novak, Knapp, and then he's not getting much love so far. Rico's mine. I have not made up my mind. Those studs and duds approach, who I want to approach with Scotty. I mean, it's hard to say to fade Wyndham with what he's doing, especially since everything we're saying you want, feel like he does. He has the distance. You can get away with spraying a little bit. He's shown to be super hot with the putter. I'm very surprised he's not getting more looks this week in the RTG model. I don't like Finau. I just don't like his form overall. Sahith is interesting. I always love my boy Will Z, but I don't think this is a fit for him either. So I don't know who my other stud is going to be yet, is what I'm trying to say.
Where I struggle with that, because the other person I had pulled out of here was Siwoo, who has been on a bit of a tear. He's made 10 cuts in a row. Half of those being top 25s. He obviously had the great round on Sunday at the Players Championship to move him up the board to T6. Has some decent history here. I mean, he had T13 back in 2016, and then finished T35 last year. But the problem is, I don't know how I'm going to play Siwoo at 9,700. The same issue I don't know how to play. I don't play Wyndham at 10.9. Because I have to play them assuming Scotty is not in the mix. And that's just so unlikely. Or I decide to jam them both in together and just say, I'm just going to try to get, 3 or 4 cuts made in the 5 and 6Ks.
So I was just curious, as you were talking there, what you would have to do to play Wyndham and Scotty. Wyndham and Scotty in this lineup. I went Andrew Novak, who we've talked about, Mackenzie Hughes, 7,800, we're talking about, Johnny Vegas, 5,600, distance, the rest of the game can leave something to be desired. But so, yeah, Clark, Hui, Hughes, Novak, Scotty, and Johnny Vegas.
I mean, that's not bad. Like, you're basically, you're pulling for another 1-2 Scotty Wyndham finish, and then you got 3 or 4 guys you think that can easily legitimately make the cut. Like, I don't know, that
I think it depends what you're trying to accomplish, right? Like, if you want to go the alternative mode from a GPP perspective, if you're an alternate player this week, you don't play Scotty, and I think you probably even try to stay away from Clark and hope Finau, Akshay, you could probably even fit a third guy up there this week and sprinkle the high 7s, because you're going to be unique. You're going to have like 60% ownership and hope the rest bust. But
I mean, what do you hope? You hope Scotty finishes T30?
8th, 10th, 13th.
8th.
And I think there's probably still a path there if those other guys are ahead of him, right? But the last 2 times out, Scotty and Clark have been 1-2. And so I think the way to probably try to do it is to, especially if you want to play them together, is try to find your sprinkles really down low that you think can get through, and get back up with that third guy in, like a Mackenzie Hughes, we talked about 7,800. But hell, if you can get back into the 8s, I don't think many people are going to go Clark, Scott, 8s, and then a couple down low. for
That'll be a
GPP.
fun.
I do
that's
not.
a fun.
I do not
Yeah.
advocate that for cash.
You don't. You definitely don't need to. And it's a fun.
Yeah.
It's just a fun little treasure hunt because like you basically, you're just you lock those guys in and you just have some fun playing a few guys down the fives. I look forward to figuring some of that out. Any other takes before we do name game and wrap things up?
I'm ready for name game, Mike.
All right. Well, last week, Kyle, good job keeping Jordan's winless streak on the year going. You cleaned up as we tackled the Valspar paint colors inspired by PGA Tour pros. You had Xander Schauffele, Zavender Purple, Taylor Moore, who just was the imposter Benjamin Moore's grandson, and then the Garnet. So good work there. I got screwed. I thought I had this in the bag, but JT, obviously threw it in reverse on Sunday. So what do you got for us this week?
Well, we're in Texas, right? And supposedly everything's bigger in Texas. So we have 3-man teams, each made up of somebody with a big last name, a big belly potentially, the guys that have dad bods is really what we're going for there, and then a big hitter. So team 1, big last name Kurt Kitayama. The dad bod of the group is Ryan Moore, and then the big hitter is Cameron Champ. Team 2, the big last name Taylor Montgomery. The dad bod Joel Dahman. Of course, we had to put Joel in there. I mean, these are all relative dad bods, right? The PGA Tour guys. We don't have Harry Higgs in this group. Yeah,
I have a thought as we get to the end of this, but
and then the big hitter is Vincent Norman. And by the way, these guys the big hitters are all 4 of the top 6 in driving distance off the tee in this field. So this stat checks out. Davis Thompson is the big last name for team 3. Alex Noren is the dad bod, and Pearson Coody is the big hitter. And then Max Grazerman is the big last name for team 4. Jason Day, dad bod, and Johnny Vegas, big hitter. Salaries all $20,700 to $21,800, so all within $1,000 roughly.
I do appreciate you choosing some hard names to pronounce and doing a fantastic job with it. Grazerman, that was new to me. I was having trouble writing that down because I kept on writing Geyserman. Grazerman.
I don't know if you heard the exhale after I got that one out.
But what I was gonna say was, on Full Swing, I don't know. I remember my wife would say to me, she's like, why are they showing them in the locker room like while they're changing? And I was like, well, because we have to see that Ricky Fowler is a normal human being with a normal body. I'm just like, it just surprises me how you're so used to seeing football players and basketball players and how ridiculously fit they are. And then you see one of the golfers take their shirt off and you're like, man, I mean, I know the physical demands are different.
Well, and the crazy thing is, yeah,
they look just like us.
And they actually talked about this on one of the pods this week, Inside Golf with Andy Lack. But can you imagine the difference between these days when you do see all the guys working out to the guy to like when Tiger is coming?
Yeah.
Like there's specific example. You think Vijay Singh was in the gym before a round? No.
No, but I mean, even you go further back, and this was all, but like the cigarettes and the alcohol and all that, like just the health behaviors of just the average, PGA Tour player was just, I don't know. World has changed, but it hasn't changed that much because, like I said, you see some of these guys and you're just like, oh God, you're a professional athlete, huh?
Harry Higgs is really, that was the inspiration for that bod. Someday Harry Higgs will get back into a field, maybe.
All right. Well, the listeners came in last week. So do you have a team you had them in mind for?
I don't, Mike. Any jumping out for you? Or should we just give them the most expensive?
You think that's fair? I mean, the most expensive hasn't fared that well. I don't know that I love, frankly, Thompson, Noren, or Pearson Coody this week. So sure, it sounds great for the listeners.
That's the most expensive team at $21,800.
Jordan would be up next. He usually likes to go team 4. You know what's going to happen this week? He's not here. He's going to win.
Yeah, this is the one he's gonna be winning. Since I just threw, well, we can't give him Joel D. He's in the model. I can see this being a Taylor Montgomery course because the guy can get hot with the putter. Kurt Kitayama always pops where you want, and then in Texas, Ryan Moore. So yeah, let's give him Team 4.
Okay.
You're right. He's probably gonna finally win.
He probably is. If he wins with Grazerman, Day, and Vegas, we might be in trouble. Although your lineup with Johnny Vegas might do all right. Since I get to pick, and since you sold me on a pop putting week with Taylor Montgomery, I will take Team 2, and you get to cross your fingers with Ryan Moore, who always seems to let me down.
I have like 4 Ryan Moore cards in 2023 Rainmakers somehow. And it's always at the bottom of the list, and you get all the way in, and you're like, son of a bitch, I have to put more Ryan Moore in across the board.
Ryan, he finished T5th last week, and he finished 45th at the Players Championship. I mean, he's been better than terrible lately. So I don't know. Maybe. Last thing I'll ask you, Kyle, as I ask you every week, do you got a couple of bets on the Houston Open?
This is a great question this week because it's a very hard. I've found it very hard to pull the trigger, make the drive to the Casey's in Iowa to place any bets because, I mean, is anyone besides Scotty or Wyndham Clark gonna win this? And then if not, maybe
just wasting money on
something. And there's 7. Willie's, he did open in the 20s, but he's climbed up. So I'm actually debating. I think I'm gonna throw in an Akshay outright, just in case. I want to throw in one other sprinkle, but then maybe just go a couple place bets this week.
That's what I was gonna say.
Top 10, top 20, maybe a Novak, Jake Knapp, maybe our boy Rico Hui just to make the cut and then implode. But hey, if you have a take out there on someone I should bet, tweet at us. Let me know. I have not placed anything yet. I'm open to ideas. I can't decide.
I like that. I like that. Just getting a little different this week. Byron Lindeque, Model Maniac on Twitter. He has been getting real creative, and I do like following his process. But he seems to kind of get on these different threads of what kind of props he's going to bet on each week. And so lately he's been on winning total. And so I think last week he bet the over on the winning total, assuming that the conditions were going to hold. And I can't remember what the exact number is, but it was interesting. His analysis this week was he wanted to bet the over, but I think he was going to go under because the assumption is that Scotty is going to win. He's going to win by 5. And so the rest of the field will finish over, but Scotty will finish under.
Did he hit last week?
He did hit last week. Yeah. I think the number, I want to say the number was like, I don't even remember what the par on the golf course. I want to say the number was like minus,
because 11-1, right? Or something like that. Yeah. And I mean, it looked 12, like it was going to be, if you would have.
That's what he said. It held up on the weekend. He thought he was going to get blown out of the water, and
a 12.
And
no, not even by 2. 12.
Yep. Well, Kyle, last thing I say, I just flipped open Instagram, and there's a Zaire post of JT chugging a beer on the Jumbotron at Madison Square Garden.
Well, he's not playing this week. You do you, man.
Spills half of it down his shirt. It's I don't know. He's really something, and he might be done. I don't know.
I still like JT.
I mean, I want him to win golf tournaments, but I'm liking him less and less as a person. But that's the thing about pro athletes. I don't have to like them as a person. I just get to watch them.
I mean, don't get me wrong. He's not my favorite ever, but I don't dislike him. That's a better way to say it.
All right. Well, we'll be back in a week with the results from the Houston Open. You can follow us all week on Twitter at RTG Podcast DFS, our YouTube channel, Reading the Green, and of course, any major podcast platforms. New episodes on Wednesday mornings. And next week, we'll be previewing the last event before the Masters, the Valero Texas Open. See ya.